and of her neighbor. The second rose bushes are the exterior souls. The little good that they do is all external and in the sight of everyone. Since there is no interior blooming, there cannot be the aim for God alone and His love alone, and because this is lacking, the petals, that is, the virtues, cannot be well attached. So, as the light breath of pride comes, it makes the petals fall off. As the breaths of complacency, of love of self, of esteem of others, of contradictions, of mortification come, they just barely touch the rose, and the petals fall down to the ground. So, poor rose, it remains always naked, without petals, with only thorns left, which prick its conscience. After this, I found myself inside myself. October 3, 1903. Jesus continues his life in the world, not only in the most holy sacrament, but also in the souls who are in his grace. I was thinking about the hour of the Passion in which Jesus took leave of his mother to go to his death, and they blessed each other, and I was offering this hour to repair for those who do not bless the Lord in everything, but rather, they offend him. In order to impetrate all the blessings which are necessary for us to preserve ourselves in the grace of God, and to fill the void of the glory of God, as if all creatures were blessing him. While doing this, I felt him move in my interior, saying, "My daughter." In the act of blessing my mother I also intended to bless each creature individually, and all in general, in such a way that everything is blessed by me. Thoughts, words, heartbeats, steps and movements made for me. Everything has been given value by my blessing. Even more, I tell you that everything good that creatures do, was all done by my humanity, so that all the works of creatures might first be divinized by me. Furthermore, my life, real and true, still continues in the world, not only in the most holy sacrament, but in the souls who are in my grace. And since the capacity of the creature is very limited, and one of them alone is unable to grab everything I did, I act in such a way as to continue my reparation in one soul, praise in another, thanksgiving in another. In some others my zeal for the salvation of souls, in another my sufferings, and so with all the rest. According to how they correspond to me, I carry out my life within them. Therefore, think of what constraints and pains they put me into. While I want to operate in them, they do not pay attention to me. Having said this, he disappeared, and I found myself inside myself. October 7, 1903. The victim souls are human angels who must repair, impetrate, protect humanity. I had asked the confessor to leave me in the will of our Lord, withdrawing the obedience that, whether he wanted or not, I should continue to remain in this state of victim. At first he did not want it, but then he consented, as long as I would assume the responsibility of answering before Jesus Christ for what could happen in the world, and he said that I should think about it first, and then answer him. I wanted to tell him that I did not want to oppose the divine will, only, if the Lord wants it, I want it. If he does not want it, I do not want it. So, why this responsibility? And he, think about it first, and tomorrow you will answer. So, as I was thinking about it in my interior, he told me, justice wants it, love does not. Then, finding myself in my usual state, I saw him for just a little, and he told me, the angels, whether they obtain something or not, always do their office. They do not withdraw from the work entrusted to them by God, of the custody of souls. Even if they see that, almost in spite of their continuous cares, diligences, industries and assistances, souls are miserably lost, they are always there, at their places. Nor do they give greater or lesser glory to God if they obtain or do not obtain, because their will is always stable in carrying out the work entrusted to them. The victim souls are human angels who must repair, impetrate, protect humanity, and whether they obtain or do not obtain, they must not cease their work, unless they were assured about it from on high. October 12, 1903. Meanings of the crowning of thorns. This morning I saw my adorable Jesus in my interior, crowned with thorns, and in seeing him in that state I said to him, "My sweet Lord, why did your head envy your scourged body which had suffered so much and had shed so much blood, and as your head did not want to be outdone by your body, which had been honored with the frieze of suffering? You yourself incite your enemies to crown you with such a painful and tormenting crown of thorns?" And Jesus, "My daughter, this crowning of thorns contains many meanings, and as much as I may speak, there is always much left to be said. In fact, the reason why my head wanted to be honored by having, not a general share, but its distinct and special portion of suffering, and its own shedding of blood, almost competing with the body, is almost incomprehensible to the created mind. The reason is that it is the head that unites the whole body and all of the soul, in such a way that, without the head, the body is nothing. So much so, that one can live without the other members, but it is impossible to live without the head, because it is the essential part of the whole of man. In fact, if the body sins or does good, it is the head that directs it, since the body is nothing other than an instrument. Therefore, since my head was to give back regime and dominion to men, and earn for them that new heavens of graces and new worlds of truths might enter the human minds, rejecting the new hells of sins because of which men reach the point of rendering themselves vile slaves of vile passions, wanting to crown the whole human family with glory, with honor and with decorum. I wanted to crown and honor my humanity first, though with a most painful crown of thorns, symbol of the immortal crown which I was giving back to creatures, taken away from sin. In addition, the crown of thorns means that there is no glory and honor without thorns, that there can never be dominion over passions and acquisition of virtues without feeling oneself being pricked deep in one's flesh and spirit, and that true reigning is in mastering oneself by the pricks of mortification and of sacrifice. Moreover, these thorns signified that I am the true and only king, and only one who constitutes me king of her heart enjoys peace and happiness, and I constitute her queen of my own kingdom. So, all those rivulets of blood which poured from my head were many little streams which bound the human intelligence to the knowledge of my sovereignty over them. But who can say all that I feel in my interior? I do not have the words to express it. Even more, the little I have said, it seems to me I have said without connection, and I believe that it must be so in speaking about the things of God, as high and sublime as is the way in which one speaks, since he is uncreated and we are created, one cannot speak about God but in stammering. October 16, 1903. The divine will is light, and one who does it nourishes himself with light. As I was in my usual state, I was feeling all full of sins and of bitterness. Then he made himself seen like a flash in my interior, and I saw my adorable Jesus for just a little. However, in his presence, the sins disappeared. Concerned, I said, "My Lord, how is it that while in your presence I should know my sins better, it happens the opposite?" And he, "My daughter, my presence is sea with no boundaries, and one who is in my presence is like a little drop. Whether it is black or white, it dissolves in my sea. So, how can it be recognized any more? Moreover, my divine touch purges everything, and the black ones it turns into white. How can you fear then? Furthermore, my will is light, and by always doing my will, you nourish yourself with light, and your mortifications, privations and sufferings convert into nourishment of light for the soul. In fact, the only food which is nourishing and gives true life, is my will. And don't you know that this continuous nourishing herself with light, even if the soul should contract some defects, purges her continuously?" Having said this, he disappeared. October 18, 1903. Sin is an act of the human will opposite to the divine. True love is to live in the will of the beloved. Continuing in my usual state, I saw my adorable Jesus for short instants, and he told me, "My daughter, do you know what forms sin? An act of the human will opposite to the divine. Imagine two friends who are in opposition. If the thing is light, you would say that their friendship is not perfect and loyal. Be it even in little things, how can they love and yet oppose each other? True love is to live in the will of the other, even at the cost of sacrifice. If then the thing is grave, not only are they not friends, but they are fierce enemies. Such is sin. Opposing the divine will is the same as making God one's enemy. Be it even in little things, it is always the creature that puts herself in opposition to the Creator." October 24, 1903. An image of the Church. As I told the confessor about my concerns that my state may not be will of God, and that, at least as a test, I wanted to try to make an effort to go out of it and see whether I could manage or not, without raising his usual difficulties, the confessor said, "All right, tomorrow you will try." So I was left as if I had been freed of an enormous weight. Now, after he celebrated Holy Mass and I received communion, I saw my adorable Jesus in my interior for just a little, his gaze fixed on me, his hands joined, in the act of asking for pity and help. At that moment I found myself outside of myself, inside a room in which there was a lady, majestic and venerable, but gravely infirm. She was inside a bed with a headboard so high as to almost touch the vault, and I was forced to stay over this headboard, in the arms of a priest, in order to keep it still and to look at the poor ill one. While in this position, I saw a few religious surrounding and offering their cares to the patient, and saying among themselves with intense bitterness, "She is ill, she is ill, it would take nothing more than a little shake." And I was taking care of keeping the headboard of the bed still, for fear that, if the bed moved, she might die. But seeing that things were dragging on, and almost getting annoyed by that idleness, I said to the one who was holding me, "For pity's sake, let me get down. I am doing nothing good, nor am I helping anyone. Why stay here, so useless? If I get down, at least I can serve her, help her." And he, "Did you not hear that even a little shake could make her get worse and cause most sad things to happen to her? If you get down, since there is no one to keep the bed still, she may even die." And I, "But how can it be possible that, by just doing this good can come to her? I don't believe it. For pity's sake, let me get down." So, after I repeated these words several times, he put me down on the floor, and by myself, with no one holding me, I drew near the ill one, and to my surprise and sorrow I saw that the bed was moving. At those movements, her face went blue, she trembled and emitted a death rattle. Those few religious were crying and saying, "There is no more time, she is in the extreme moments now." Then some enemies entered, soldiers and captains, to beat the ill one, but, dying as she was, that lady got up with intrepidness and majesty to be wounded and beaten. On seeing